Hello. The chat is open if anyone wants to say hi. And feel free to send messages throughout so we know how things are going. I am coming to you live from Dead Kate Bounce's kitchen. It's the Dead Kate kitchen, where she will be cooking up cocktails. I got the first one to start. And I will get to that in a second, but while everyone is joining, I wanted to kind of say hi and welcome everyone. If you didn't know, the idea for this webinar came actually from a Twitter poll. And I think a lot of the people who are going to be on here are from Twitter. And so that's why we kind of scheduled it for the market close. And since it's the holidays, we figured let's have some booze. Also, I mean, we just figured let's have some booze because that's what we seem to do. So the idea for Content and Cocktails was born. So I even made you guys a fancy slideshow. So Content and Cocktails, how we're going to avoid the 2020 hangover in 2021 with great marketing and with some great cocktails. So the themes, the 3 great marketing tips that I haven't introduced, it's one of the few things I haven't teased, are how to make your website really work next year, how to streamline your social so that it is being as effective as possible, and then how you can start dabbling in paid marketing, which is a thing I think a lot of people ask questions about and don't know how to get started on. So those are the 3 things that we're going to be focusing on. Everything that we're doing today, marketing-wise and even cocktail-wise, is sort of grounded in best practices, so in sort of classic recipes or classic ideas for success. And we're just using 2021 as really a good opportunity to dive deeper into those best practices. And we'll talk about why all of these ideas in 2021 as we go through them, so you know that I'm not just throwing random ideas at you. There's a method to the madness. But first, let's start with cocktails. I sent you guys the recipe for this one for apple juice. All of our cocktails are going to have sort of an investing marketing theme, and we'll kind of explain to you what that tie-in is. And so I will let Dead Kate, or just Kate, I can probably just call her Kate in this situation, take over from here and explain how to make apple juice. We're using the distilled vodka that I showed you all how to make on Twitter, but you can also use spiced rum or whatever it is that you want. But for today, caramel vodka. Cheers. I'm gonna tag out. Oh boy. Set all my things up. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my crib. Getting everything around here. Try not to. Okay, so apple juice, AAPL juice. Very simple, keeping it easy, and nice fall drink. So we all love a seasonal, at least I do. All you need, apple cider, and then caramel vodka. Either, buy it from the store, or you can be like Shauna and much more creative and make it yourself, which I would recommend. Only takes around, 28 hours to do.
Not to be too precise about it, but like exactly 28 hours.
Exactly 28 hours. All right, so first things first, I'm big into garnishes. I think that it really amplifies kind of what you're drinking to make it a lot more fun. So you want to start by rimming off your glass. I'm drinking the vodka today, but again, you can use spiced rum. I prefer that with heated up apple cider. It's delicious, so especially on like a cold fall night. But first, you're going to start off rimming your glass. You want to use something sticky. Typically, I would use caramel sauce. I couldn't find that at the store, so I have agave nectar, which is sticky as well. With other drinks, you can use lime or lemon juice for rimming your glass. I just don't really think that would go with kind of the taste we're going for. This is a sweet drink. So I put it on a plate, but just rim your glass all the way around. There you go.
There you go.
My paper plate, super fancy. So make sure you get all of it. And then I'm rimming mine with just brown sugar. You could do cinnamon brown sugar, pretty much anything you want. I have a huge sweet tooth, so this typically, with some caramel sauce under it, very, very sugary and sweet, but makes the drink even better. So just kind of go in circles here. That should be good. All right, so now we have the rim on.
And we are going to add in our vodka and our cider. If you do kind of the make your own vodka, it is a little bit more sort of milky and creamy, which I definitely like. So for this recipe, and this is dependent on, you know, how much alcohol taste you can take. I would say 2.5 ounces of vodka and 2.5 ounces of apple cider, but you could do 3 ounces of apple cider, and then, you know, like 2 ounces of vodka as well, just depending on your preference.
Did anyone make probably not, but I'm asking out of curiosity, did anyone make the caramel vodka after I posted the recipe? Is anyone using homemade caramel vodka for this? All right. It's really good.
It is.
Really good.
I taste tested it before this. Could definitely drink it on ice. All right, so could have put this in a shaker as well. I'm just gonna stir it, stirred, not shaken. Again, preference. And then just to sort of dress this, I'm not gonna bring my knife over there just so I don't, you know, cut myself on live stream under pressure.
Really, neither of us should be using a knife on live webcam.
This is true. So I'm just gonna cut an apple slice, maybe not my best work. It's kind of small. Just put the slice on the rim, and then I also have cinnamon sticks just for another garnish, you know, kind of load them up, but again, up to you. I would recommend, if anything, you just add the caramel sauce and the brown sugar on the rim, and that's it. Super simple, super delicious. Hopefully some of you try it. If not today, try it another time. Super easy.
So if you've been making these along with us, cheers, and we'll drink this for the first section before we move to the next drink, which will come with the next section. And don't worry, of course I overthought this, and all of the drinks tie into what we're talking about in the section that we're doing them. So one fun little thing about apple juice is, how many people know that when Jim Cramer first coined the term FANG, Apple was not in it? It was Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. And they didn't add Apple to FANG until, I think, 2017, so like 4 years later. And then sure enough, Apple becomes the most valuable company in the world on and off. So the moral of that story is, if you are a little bit behind on digital marketing now, don't worry, you can still catch up and become the most amazing marketer ever. And that's what this is all about. Hopefully we'll get you to that place. So number one, make your website work. So why does that matter in 2021? Here's the thing. We know that advisors and people at financial firms are good at sales. Like you can close once you get someone in your front door. But if your website's doing a good job, then you don't have to work so hard at selling. The website, if it's doing what it's meant to do, is doing the work for you, and it takes some of the pressure off of you. So if you're taking full advantage of your website, then by the time someone calls you, they should be ready to sign up and work with you, because all of the questions, like the high level questions, the things that you find annoying maybe in a call, those will all have been addressed by the website. So we're going to walk through how you can make your website an extension of you for your existing clients and make clients ready to sign up if they're just prospects. So, you know, your website matters. That's why we're starting here. And just to kind of point out some statistics here, online consumption in 2020, just because we've all been cooped up in our houses, is up by at least double. There's tons of different studies with different numbers. So there was a DoubleVerify survey that looked at 10,000 people across 5 countries, and they were the ones that found this 2 times increase, that we're spending something like 7 hours a day on screens. And that's not just computer screens for work. That's just like TV, news, social media. 48% of people said they're spending more time on social media. 47% are spending more time just on websites. And then there's also been a 59% increase, self-reported, of Americans who are saying they're spending more time on their phones. So if you didn't know this already, the trend is moving towards people checking websites on their phone and not online. And that includes for things like financial services, where we think, oh, that's the kind of thing people are going to do at work or on their computer when they're at their office. Not true. There's something like 77% of websites are visited on mobile phones now. That's a huge number. So I want to take a quick poll while we're all here and see, when is the last time that you guys looked at your website, if you have one, on your phone?
Because here's the thing. If you're not looking at your website on your phone, that's a problem because your clients very much probably are. I mean, I do content marketing for financial firms. It's definitely the kind of thing that I think people would look at on their computer like, oh, hey, I'm interested in marketing for my firm. 70% or so of the traffic from my website to my website comes on mobile phones. So, I mean, this is pretty telling. A lot of you guys are checking it. A lot of you guys maybe not checking it super frequently, but the more you can check or even be mobile first with your site, you will be 2 steps ahead of things because you'll see what your clients are seeing. And a big theme that we're going to talk about is looking at your website through your client's eyes and not through your eyes. So that is important, mobile. So in terms of making your website better, not just mobile, there's 3 A's that we're going to work with. Audience, which is who you're making your website for, what, that's like the most important thing. It all kind of comes back to that. That's like the first thing. We'll end on it. We'll start with it. That's it. It's basically the summary of, your client comes first. It's the web version of that is saying audience comes first. Then we have analytics and action. So action is what you want your audience to do on your site. And a lot of people are, oh, we want them to become a client or we want them to book a call, but there has to be a lot of steps in between that if you want your website to really work for you. And then analytics. Analytics, we as finance people love data, and analytics have some great data in them. And then I can't tell you how many advisors or financial clients I have that never check their analytics. And you are leaving this treasure trove of data untapped. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can use those and make those work for you. So audience, I said audience comes first. Audience is the most important. So why does it matter in 2021? Well, if people are coming to your website first and websites are sort of the gateway to you, then what a 90-year-old is looking for in a website or a 70-year-old is very different than what a 30-year-old is looking for in a website. So if you want your website to resonate with your clients, you have to really know who that is. And obviously there's a move in different financial circles to kind of find your niche or your niche if you're fancy. And that can actually really help you in your website as well. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means when you're building your website. Because here's the thing. If you look at your site through your customer's eyes, say you're selling vacuums. Very easy if you're selling vacuums, you know that you're not supposed to get online or get on the phone and say, hey, I got this great vacuum to sell you. What you really need to be saying is, do you have dirty floors? Man, do I have a solution for you. And it does all of these things that solve all of your problems. It's lightweight. It has super tough suction. Like, you know that intuitively if you're selling something like vacuums or snow boots or whatever it is. But as soon as we get into the mindset of financial services, that goes out the door. We think, oh, there are so many things that we need to tell our clients. And that's true because education is a big part of what all of us do. But if we're coming from the mindset of what do I want to say to them? What do I have to tell them? What do they have to learn? Then we also lose a little bit of the what do they need to hear? What problems do they have that I need to solve? How can I talk to them in a way that really resonates with the language that they speak, what they're looking to hear? So that is a really small just shift in mindset that can change little things like how you organize your website or how you label things. Instead of labeling it products or services, even it's problems that we solve. So thinking about those quick little flips can make a really big difference. But in terms of what your clients need to hear, a lot of that depends on who your client is. And going back to this idea of, kind of honing who your audience is, I want to bring in, and I tested this, so let's see how well it goes. I want to bring in Jamie Hopkins from Carson Coaching, because he does a lot with audience and how to pick your audience and why they're so important. And so as soon as he accepts the video and microphone insight, I will let him take it over and talk to you guys a little bit about that. All right.
Enable.
It worked. I think so. All right. Tech success.
I see my.
There's your slide. Take it away.
Hey, everyone. And hey, thanks for having me on again. Cheers. So, yeah, when we talk about picking an audience, so one of my roles is I sit on top of the coaching company, Carson Coaching now. And one of the challenges we have when I talk to advisors, when our coaches talk to advisors is, hey, I want to get new clients. And I say, well, who do you want to get? And I get 5 minutes of rambling on who they want to get. That's not fast enough, right? And this gets back to what I have on here, and I'll flow through this. So conviction. I love this word. I'm an attorney by trade, right? So when you think of somebody having a conviction, you think of being arrested. And it's because they did something, right? They've been kind of called out to the public on something. And conviction also means, it has 3 meanings. The next meaning is your beliefs. And then the third one is actually you follow through on those beliefs. Now, if you know your conviction out there in the world, right? You know exactly what you care about, your deeply held beliefs, all of a sudden you can find your audience. If you know that you are convicted to helping women, you're convicted to helping, right? Like my mom, small business owners, then all of a sudden, all this other stuff becomes easier. And often it's that light bulb. What defines and drives you? So for me, I always tell people the story. My dad passed away when I was 8 years old. He left my mom running a company, right? Didn't graduate from college. We've got 5 children. So helping people like her is my mission for my work. That's what defines me, my past experiences, and what it drives me. So every single day I get up and do something in the retirement space, I know why I'm doing it. It is to help people like her. Now, all of a sudden, right, I now know what I believe in. I know what defines me, and I know what I will never feel like is work, right? At no point when I'm working on retirement pieces will I ever feel like, hey, look, I'm not driven. Why? Because I can always think back to my mom, who's in her late 60s now, still working, right? Never had a pension, never had a 401k, getting ready to pay off her mortgage, relying on Social Security and Medicare. That's never going to go away. So I will always be driven by that. Then the next part is, how do you add value back to that world? Well, advisors, professionals, right? Think about that. We can add so much value through planning, asset management, behavioral coaching, sometimes just being a shoulder for somebody to cry on and listen to, right? How many times have you had a client to just come in and they just dump everything on you, right? All of a sudden you take these pieces, you create personas or whatever you want to call it. Personas kind of mean to the goal clients. But that's picking your audience. And a lot of people think that you should go start and find an audience out there, right? But no, figure out, what are you convicted on? What defines, drives you? Where do you add value? That's going to create that last group, right? That's going to create the group that every day that you meet with them, it's never going to feel like work. That's how you're going to be able to build the website, your marketing materials, so you always have that amazing experience. Every time somebody comes in, they know that you're doing this for the right reasons.
I love that. I feel like so many people got into this field because they had that drive, and it's just a matter of putting it on paper and tying, like connecting the dots between what drives you and what that means in terms of your audience, and building that persona and saying it's this person with this age. And then sometimes making the really hard decisions of saying, I want to help you, but you're not the best candidate for me.
Learning how to say no feels like a privilege at some point, right? But to be more successful, you have to learn the right places to say no. And it's a very hard thing to learn. I always tell people, I'm not good at that. So like, I'm not the one to tell you that I figured it out. I do know it's the right thing. I've probably said more no in the last 2 years than I have in the 15 years before that in my career.
I can attest to the fact that Jamie's bad at saying no, because he did like 3 or 4 other webinars today and he still said yes to doing this one. And he also said yes to you guys being able to follow up with him. So those details will come in the handout at the end. So even though I'm going to turn off his camera abruptly and rudely, thank you so much, Jamie. And you guys will all be able to ask him questions in the future as needed to follow up, or just working with Carson in general. They are so great with coaching, and I read their materials a lot just because they're so educational and lovely. With analytics, if you haven't figured out your audience, for some reason you're not driven, or you're trying to connect the dots where you're like, I know I want to help people, but what people? Analytics can actually kind of help you figure that out. If you go on your site's analytics and you're like, all of my traffic is coming from women who are 55 to 75 in the Dakotas, then maybe you're like, well, something I'm doing is resonating with women 55 to 75 in the Dakotas, and let's look into that. Like, let's take a closer look. So analytics can just help you make your site better. It can help you make yourself a better advisor. It can help you understand what your clients need, what they're looking for, because you can kind of spy on them when they're on your website and see what's working on your site and what isn't. And it kind of creates a baseline for you going forward. And so if you haven't been looking at your analytics, and a lot of people I know haven't, start today. I mean, it gives you just such a good baseline for everything. I got to tell you just a story. One of the things analytics can tell you is sort of the most popular content. And if you look at this slide, that small sliver of a picture across the top, that's actually a Google Analytics kind of screen grab. And it shows you kind of some of what you can see in terms of where your traffic's coming from and what days it peaks. And you can kind of link some of those events together. And I have people sometimes coming to me with content marketing who are like, I love blogging. I've heard content is great. I want to do more content. And then you go on their analytics and you realize no one's looking at the content that they already have. So maybe the problem isn't content or making content, it's figuring out how to distribute the content. Are you promoting it on social the right way? Are you sending it out over email? Are you using the printouts of that content in your one-on-one meetings with clients? If clients have questions, are you sending them to the website first before you take 20 minutes of your day? Or are you just tapping on the phone? So it can really tell you a lot about what's working and what's not working before you spend money. I mean, you should always spend money with me. Like that would be great, but I don't want you to waste your money, right? I don't want you to create great content in a vacuum. So analytics are really important on that front. It can also tell you what is working on the distribution front. If you're getting, I can tell you, and it's probably why you guys are here, I get a ton of my traffic from Twitter, and that's amazing, but it means that I need to pay attention to what I'm posting on Twitter because you guys are paying attention. Do I always do that? No, but I know that I need to because I've checked my analytics. And it also tells you a lot about your audience. There's a surprising amount of demographics that are built into analytics. So things like age groups or gender and those types of things that I think can be a little bit sensitive for advisors. So if most of your meetings are with men and then you're seeing a lot of the analytics are coming from women, like it could be that their wives are the ones checking your site and then you're talking to the husbands, not realizing that behind the scenes their wives are doing all of this work. So it can give you a lot of insights. And then also landing pages and bounce rates, that tells you kind of how people are coming to your site and where people are leaving your site. So if content is not working and people are piecing out, you can see that on analytics. And you can almost see sort of people's behavior. Like they land here and then they go here and then they go here. And that's some really powerful information. So of course, how analytics work is different based on who's hosting your site. But Google Analytics, Squarespace, a lot of them show very similar information. So if you just talk to whoever your host is, they can probably give you a quick walkthrough on analytics, or you can always reach out to me or Brian, who's going to come talk later on. I'm sure can talk a lot about that as well. But in terms of analytics showing you how people are using your site, like where they're landing, where they're going next, that kind of ties into action. So why that matters in 2021 is we know that your website is probably going to be the first thing that people see because they're not coming to a meeting. So what do they do when they get there? I cannot tell you how many times people complain to me or they say, people are calling me, but they're just not right. Like they're not ready. I'm wasting my time on all of these leads, but nothing's coming of them. And that's because there's not necessarily as much work being done on your site. And so that's where I introduced this, which looks a little scary. It's marketing jargon that I usually prefer not to use, but it's the marketing funnel. And it's something that's actually really important for everyone to be aware of, even if you're not super into marketing. And awareness is the first level. A lot of brands spend the bulk of their advertising budgets on awareness. So having you find out that lemon facials exists. I just made that up because Caitlin has a lemon sticker on her laptop. So they'll spend all of this money on just getting aware. If someone's on your website, you've already hit awareness. They're there. But then there's this huge phase of consideration. I mean, think about the amount of time you might spend figuring out which winter boots to buy if you live in Chicago. You're looking at waterproof reviews, all of these things. You almost never go from lemon boots exist to I'm going to just spend $300 on lemon boots. And why we think that someone would do that with a financial advisor, like just come to your site and then pick up the phone and call you and that you would close it in a day, it doesn't make any sense. So your website really needs to do work on that consideration phase. That's where most people spend the most of their time. So think about what actions you want people to take that aren't book call. So every piece of content, every page on your site should have something for people to do next. So if it's an article that you've written, maybe it's read more. If it's about us, then maybe it links to our services and like why you're uniquely positioned to solve people's problems. So every page that you have should give someone something to do next so that they don't bounce off the site. Because if you haven't given someone something to do next and they have to search for that option, they might leave, and then that's a loss for you. Whereas if you give them a lot of stuff to do, and here's the example on here, like they come to read about cost of college, and then they read about 529s, and then they read about balancing saving for college with retirement. Maybe by the time they read those 3 articles, they love the way you write, they love the way you think, and when they book that call, they're ready to sign up. So that's what I mean when I say think smaller in terms of action. Think about the steps that people can take before they get to booking that call. So that was a lot. This was the longest section, and there's a reason it was the longest section. Your website is just so incredibly important, and these 3 things are really the key to that. They are best practices in any year, but in 2021, when we're staying socially distanced, it's such a good excuse to just get your basics right and to kind of play with all of these things. And that's one of the reasons apples are such an apt thing as well, that they're sort of like the fruit to build off of. So, an apple a day and all that. If y'all have questions, I know this section felt long, but the next ones are quicker, and I built in time at the end for questions. So hold that thought. And in the meantime, let's go to the next drink. If you were looking on social, it involves tequila. Make it with us if you have the ingredients on hand. Otherwise, we'll send the recipe later, and you just keep drinking whatever it is that you're drinking. So this is the Instagram, flip those words in reverse. It's the Instamarg.
All right. I was cutting some fruit behind the scenes. I was afraid I was going to get stage fright for myself. So.
You know what? Maybe don't do this on my notes. All right, we'll tilt this down so y'all can see what she's doing.
Please do.
All the fruits of your labor.
The fruits of my labor, for sure. All right. Okay, so like Shauna said, making an Instamarg. This is just going to be, your traditional marg recipe plus some raspberry liqueur. But you could also, the fun thing with margaritas is the kind of traditional recipe can be played on in a lot of different ways. If you have a different fruit that you like, you can muddle that and kind of, put that in when you're shaking it, or you can use some different syrups or liqueur like I am today. If you want a little bit of extra, kick in your margarita. So first, put some ice in my glass here. Oh wait, I can't do that yet actually. Okay, regular margarita glass. And again, we're gonna rim this. This time I have a kind of pre-made margarita salt. Just get that open.
Man, I couldn't have prepped it.
I know, I should have. All right, so, and then when you're rimming these, again, like I mentioned, you can use, lime or lemons. I'd cut some lime, so just as easy as, going around the rim with a slice of lime. And then from there, you just dip
What, like this technique?
Thank you. You just dip the end of the glass in like so. All right. And then after that, you're going to add in your ice. But if you have a shaker, I would say, that's preferred. I'm going to be putting it in a shaker as well. So have a Boston shaker, have some ice in there. And then kind of looking at specifics of what you're putting into this, I'm sure you can guess. So first tequila, lime juice, triple sec or Cointreau. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. And then again, the raspberry liqueur. You can do this a lot of different ways. I've used like blue curacao or just like pre-made margarita mixes too for different flavors.
Also, I'll send the recipes for these out later. So you'll have all of those as a take-home fun thing.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, you're going to do 1.5 ounces of tequila. You can do a little more, again, if you're a big tequila fan. And then you're going to do 1 ounce of lime juice. I usually would recommend, using fresh lime juice. For this, I should be, following my own advice, but I'm just using the pre-made right here. And then 1/2 ounce of triple sec or Cointreau.
Does anyone know the proper way of saying this? Are we saying this totally
I hope
wrong?
I'm saying it right.
Cointreau.
Cointreau.
Who are the fancy ones out there?
Probably Cointreau. I don't know. It's not me. All right. Get that in there.
Cointreau.
Cointreau.
Karen getting the MVP award today.
The more you know. All right. Well, thank you for that. And then just to make this, give it a little bit of a twist, again, the raspberry liqueur, almost 0.75 of an ounce, but you could go all the way with it too. And again, if it had been, fresh raspberry season 2, could definitely get those, muddle them in the bottom of this shaker, and then put the rest of your ingredients in. And then when you're straining it out, I just got a bartending kit for Christmas, but you can use this to strain it out so nothing gets through other than the liquids. So you have all of that in. And then the last thing I would mention is a lot of people don't do this with margaritas, but blue agave nectar is a really good thing to add in with your margarita. Just a few squirts, nothing too crazy, but sweetens it up a little bit because, you know, the lime juice is pretty sour and, you know, tequila is tequila. So just shake that.
Say that like it's a bad, gosh, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Definitely not a bad thing,
To
but
quote Jeremy or Cher, gosh, say that like it's a bad thing.
all right. Here we go.
Wait, so I get to try this, right?
You do get to try this, yes. All right, so we have that poured. Maybe move up the, here, hold it up there so you can see it.
It's so pretty. It's pink.
Yeah, it is pink. Very Instagrammable, you could say. And then I just put a slice of lime on the side, just for aesthetic, you know. And here we go.
All right, I'm going to tag back in. All right, let's see.
Take me through.
See if it's as good as my caramel. I love tequila, so I'm biased. That is yummy. In case anyone's wondering, not too sweet, especially with the salty rim. It's kind of perfect. So I also mentioned that part of this webinar is going to learn how to be politely drunk. So we'll see how I do as I continue to taste test all of these for you guys. So one of the reasons that we did a tequila drink for this next section is because we're going to be talking a little bit about moderation. And I don't know, on the chat, you guys can tell me how many of you guys have had nights where you drink just maybe a little bit too much tequila and it's no longer your favorite thing? No? All right, so streamline your social. That is one of the themes for 2021. So we know social is huge. A ton of us are here because of Twitter or because of LinkedIn, because those are basically the only places I promoted this. You know, my apartment fell apart and that was all it could do. But a lot of us are just kind of like doing what we like to do or trying things and maybe not approaching it with a lot of strategy. And a lot of us are asking questions about what people are doing maybe outside of the world of FinTwit or financial services. And so I kind of have you all covered on that for 2021 while we're all spending way too much or just the right amount of time on social. Why not kind of experiment with different best practices and see what works for you so you can actually maybe monetize it or make it work for your business. So some statistics: social media usage up 72% in 2020. And 43% of us are using the same platform that we were using maybe before all of this. With one exception, a lot of people went out and tried TikTok. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going out and trying TikTok, but being aware of it and also being aware of the bad financial advice that's out there, you can kind of counter program it a little bit and just kind of being aware of what's going on. So there's also one thing to keep in mind. There's been a Harvard study, you know, while we're sitting here drinking alcohol, that shows that social media is addictive. The same part of your brain lights up when you are on social media as when you're gambling or things like that. So kind of maybe take advantage of everyone's addiction to social media and use it for good. I know a lot of people on here have joked on DMs or chatted with me saying, I got to get off Twitter for a minute. Like, I'm spending way too much time here. Your clients and your business colleagues are probably feeling the same way. So like, let's take advantage of that. Be a little bit ruthless about it. So if social media usage is up, why streamline? Why pick one or the other? Well, let's think about Twitter for a second. Twitter is not very representative, I don't know if you've noticed this, of the population as a whole. For starters, it's way more political than people are in regular life. And when you think about things like your clients, you might not want to get super political with them if that's not part of your audience or your MO, your modus operandi kind of a thing. I mean, it might be great for you to network professionally, look at all of us here, but it might not be where you want to go to find your clients. At the same time, LinkedIn, where we all think of as like the place you go to network, if you're networking, if you're marketing to small business owners, if you're like Jamie and your target client is to help that small business owner who might be spending time on LinkedIn, looking for HR help, looking for employees, all of that, then maybe LinkedIn is great for you. But if you're looking for that 55 to 75-year-old demographic out in the Dakotas, it might be Facebook. So thinking really strategically, again, it all comes back to audience. You have to know who your audience is, and then you can build a social strategy that actually works for them. And so I want to bring in one of my favorite people and introduce her to sort of the world of finance. She's already been working with some advisors I've put her in touch with. Her name is Christina Hall. She runs a company called Hall Social, and she's worked with a lot of different types of companies. So she can bring you that perspective outside of the world of FinTwit. And so let me invite her to take over here and to talk to you guys a little bit. Christina, did that work?
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
All right. I don't have a margarita, but I have wine. So we're going to go with it, okay?
No, fine. We do not discriminate here.
Fine. All right, guys. Well, thank you for the introduction. So I wanted to really dive in with you guys all about content and vanity metrics. I could talk days about vanity metrics, but we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to give you the importance of it. So what are vanity metrics? When we're talking vanity metrics, we're thinking likes, unrelated comments, bot comments, fake engagement, especially on Instagram. I've worked with every platform, and fake engagement is huge on Instagram. I mean, there's bot companies for this. And so the reason why we really don't want to look at vanity metrics is for that reason right there. There's so much spam out there. You can go on websites and you can put your Instagram handle in, and they're gonna go like your photo. So I've seen companies where they have, we'll say 15,000 followers, but their engagement is complete trash. It's just complete trash. And when I say that, it's because they might have, say they have 200 likes on a post, but they might not have any comments. Or if you go into the comment section, and I've done this, I've looked at the comments and they're like one-word comments. That stuff is not going to help your business. That's not going to grow your brand whatsoever. That essentially just makes you look appeasing on social media. So what is real engagement exactly? Well, likes, of course we all want likes. I don't want to discredit them completely, but they're not the main metric. But engaged comments are really, really important. So let's talk call to action. If I'm doing a call to action and I'm saying, hey, comment below with your favorite X, Y, and Z. If people are commenting with that, that's engaged comment. If they're just saying, hey, this is a bot thing, but like DM me for a collaboration, that is not good. That's not good engagement. That's not the kind of engagement we want. So another way to really see and assess if your social media is performing well is the shares. And you're going to see shares on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as Twitter. The shares button in Instagram, if you don't know this, is in the analytics part. You can see it. It's a very, very, very great tool. But the more people are sharing your content, obviously the better, because we're able to be more exposed to different types of people out there. We're really growing your brand. Oh, did I do something? Did we move? Okay.
Okay. Back a second, but it might have been me.
Then, so the shares are going to be really, really important. That is probably one of my favorite metrics right there, because I could get 20 likes on a post, but I might get 10 shares. You guys do the math. Do we want the shares or do we care about the likes? We care about the shares. Saves on Instagram are huge. I almost whipped out my phone to show you, but if you guys don't know what saves are, on Instagram, it's that little bookmark under a post. When you get people to save your content, that is huge, absolutely huge. I'll use one of my clients as an example. They're a golf company. And on the vanity metric side, they don't get a lot. They maybe get like 30 to 40 likes on a post, but their shares and their sends and their saves on Instagram are probably some of the wildest analytics I've seen. I've seen anywhere between 100 to 200 shares on their posts, because that's where it matters. Clicks, you're going to see clicks all across the board as well. Clicks are huge because, again, that means people are engaged with the content that you're actually putting out there. So if I'm clicking, if I'm sharing, if I'm saving, I like it. We're going to say screw the likes because we don't care about that. And then when it comes to content, right? When it comes to content that works, every platform is different. And this is something I really preach and really like to remind my clients. Every single platform, different things are going to work. So with Instagram specifically, I talk a lot about Instagram because that is a really strong wheelhouse for me. Anytime you have a quote card or actually, because you guys all love Twitter, tweets on Instagram are huge. Everybody's doing a tweet. So that's the kind of content that's going to get shared. Quote cards, tweets, anything that's more of like an infographic form, they have the best chances of getting shared. That's really great shareable content. Educational content, especially I would say more in the LinkedIn world, or Twitter, because you can link out to blogs. The educational content is going to go really, really far, especially in this world of finances. You want to educate as much as possible. Now, I'll be the first to say educational content gets boring. We don't want educational content every single time. If I see 5 posts on you teaching me something, I'm good. I'm out of here. I'm not reading it. And that's why storytelling content is huge. And I know there's a lot of rules and regulations in the finance world, so you can't say a bunch of things, but there are still ways to produce storytelling content. With that being said, doing client transformations, saying this client maybe came to me for this. This is what we discussed. This is how they improve their situation. So we can really, really paint that client journey, which is just performs so beautifully. This is my biggest thing when it comes to storytelling content. Think about when you were a kid. Think about when we were growing up, we were always told stories. Every blockbuster movie out there has a killer story behind it. We are attracted to a story. People are going to connect with you in the storytelling content because it invokes emotion. That's huge right there. If you can, in the right way with the rules and regulations in the finance world, if you can evoke emotion, then that's key right there. That's key. I can't tell you, I have never signed up with somebody as a mentor or used a service or anything, unless it's like clothes or something, that I didn't feel emotion towards, because that's what drew me in.
Well, to use a classic finance example, it's like with life insurance, no one is like, oh, tell me more about term life insurance. They're like, how much do I need to, like, what do I need to do or buy to protect my family if something happens to me? How much do I need? Walk me through it. No one ever bought life insurance because you were like, hey, term policies are great.
Exactly. And, even when I talk about my financial advisor, I connected with him. Like, I just connected with him on a personal level as well. And that made it a lot easier to work with him. And then, of course, it's like, okay, tell me what I need to do. One of the things that is not on this slide, but I do want to talk about are call to actions, and I'll wrap it up after that. But call to actions are going to be really, really important when it comes to your engagement. As I mentioned before, call to actions are important because you are literally telling somebody.
Well, no, just if you don't know the term call to action, like something we use a lot, it's kind of what I was talking about before with the action. It's literally what you are calling or what you're asking people to do, the action you're asking them to take. So read more, learn more, set up a phone call. So that's the call to action.
And the thing is, if you don't tell people what to do, they're not going to do it. I promise you, if you do not have a call to action in there, they're not going to do it. But you want to make sure your call to actions are different. So if you have a call to action on Monday that says, hey, book an appointment with me, don't make that your call to action on Tuesday. We want to get engaging conversation going. So one thing that you can do with a call to action, just simply ask a question. Ask them a question and tell them to comment below. And that's going to start the conversation, because what happens as they comment, you can comment back. What happens then, you can slide into their DMs and you can have a conversation with them. And what happens there, you can transition them over to a client, because it all comes down to the relationship. So your call to actions are really, really important. So please hone in on those as well as you can.
I mean, look, the reason I'm best friends with Jamie is because I slid into his DMs and was like, do you want to talk about retirement stuff? So
it's not always creepy to slide into.
We're all friends. Well, and I think one of the things that you hit on is what advisors tend to do is either book a call, or it's I posted this article, or it's nothing. Like some of those in between calls to actions don't necessarily feel natural. So I also, for everyone on here, I'm going to have Christina's information all included in the end. So if you have deep dive questions, she is so good at answering questions about how you can schedule social. Like a lot of people I know say social feels like a full-time job, just writing and making the posts. You can automate that, or she can automate that. I've had her do it for me. She's very affordable. It's amazing. But also like why promoted posts versus ads and all of that. Brian's gonna talk about it later. Christina's also great on it. So depending on your needs, her contact information will be in a handout at the end. So thank you, Christina. It was so great to hear. All right, we will keep this moving along. So again, had to make the pun in here. One of the reasons we picked tequila for social is because sometimes it's a good idea to stop after 2. We'll move on to the next drink. And I have to tell, while Caitlin is setting up for this, I will tell you guys a quick story of why we called it the Gordon Gekko. So it is a take on the Tom Collins. And so I was looking up
how the Tom Collins got its name. And it turned out that back in the day, people used to walk around Wall Street asking each other if they had seen Tom Collins, or saying Tom Collins was asking for you, like, go check in with the front desk and get in touch with Tom. And it turns out Tom Collins was not a real person. This was just how they were walking around screwing with each other. So since Gordon Gekko is also not a real person, we figured, hey, we will make that our version of the Tom Collins, and we can also make some puns on greed and gin. So I actually also hate gin. I think it's like chewing an evergreen tree and very stupid. So this one was all Caitlin.
Well, I love gin, so I'll take the reins on this one. Okay. So Tom Collins, again, another super easy one. Literally just gin, fresh lemon juice, simple syrup, and club soda just to top it off. I'm going to put some sliced lemons in my glass now. Just get ahead of that. And then for garnish, you'd use maraschino cherries in orange wedge, but just adding a little lemon in here as well. I, in addition to doing everything with the knives ahead of time, just to not injure myself on camera, I also squeeze some lemon juice just to have fresh juice for this one. Big part of the recipe.
Do you think about how you're gonna pour the juice from the bowl?
I didn't get that far, but we're gonna try it right now. So at the risk of embarrassing myself. So for the first part of this recipe though, and we'll get to the lemon juice after this, it's 2.5 ounces of gin. And you can put, so you're gonna put everything in a shaker other than the club soda for obvious reasons because it's carbonated. So we're gonna do that first, and then you just top off whatever room is left in your glass with club soda. So just depending on what you use. And then after the 2.5 ounces of gin, you're gonna add in 1.5 ounces of fresh lemon juice, which, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna have to do it fast, you know.
Well done.
Thank you. All right, got that. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. And then after your fresh lemon juice, you're just gonna put in 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, just to sweeten it up a little bit.
Does anyone else like me hate gin?
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Pop in the comments if you think gin tastes like chewing a Christmas tree.
See, Jamie's with me. Jamie loves gin. Well, Jamie, me too.
I hate Uncle Jamie.
All right. So you're just gonna, oh wait, we'll strain it. One more is in there, but you're gonna strain this in your glass. And then you're gonna take club soda. Dramatic. And you just top off your glass.
I'll try this and see if you can convince me.
I mean, the lemon part's good. And then just for additional garnish too, I have, yeah, you can use cherry. I have extras. I have, you know, like the skewers that you can use for this. You usually just use, you know, an orange slice and some maraschino cherries. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. You are. I think so.
Where's Karen? Karen Maraschino, right?
Yeah, Karen, let me know. And then I'm just gonna put that on the top because it'll slide straight to the bottom. But that is how you do this one. Lots of fruit.
Fruit is good.
Karen, oh, I said it right. There we go. Perfect.
We got Chef Lauren Owens telling you to eat your veggies. We are here telling you to eat your fruits.
It can be in drink form too. We
Exactly.
really don't.
Drink
We
your
aren't that
fruits.
picky. So.
All right, I'm gonna give this a test. I don't know, like, how does one do this delicately?
Oh, you can just
with
take
a-
the skewer off. That's just
Sweet. We went to all the trouble of making the
Well,
skewer.
you can
to
either
just
take
not
the
do anything.
skewer off, or you can literally just put. Oh, sorry.
This is why I
Put
can't
all
have
of them
nice
in there.
things. I'm like, why bother? Okay, all right. Let's see.
It is a lot of gin though.
See, I think the gin's at the bottom because most of the club soda's at the top, so I actually like it.
Oh, I should have mixed it. I had my
Gin is what I
mixing
drink.
spoon.
Gin is what I drink at parties when I'm trying not to get too drunk because I know I won't drink it too fast because I don't like it. So I recommend everyone, there's some free advice. I recommend everyone have that drink that they don't really like. Yes, free jewelry. Okay. So let's get back in the game of marketing. I promise I'll wrap this up. I want to get Brian on because Brian is amazing. So
2021 is a really great time to experiment with paid marketing. I know so many people who say, I'm interested in digital marketing. I just don't know where to start. I don't have the budget for it. There's 1,000 excuses that we all have all the time. And the thing is, if you read Michael Kitces or just read these advisor blogs, most advisors who have over $1 million in revenue spend something like 4% or less of their revenue on marketing. At the same time, the Small Business Administration recommends businesses of that size spend like 6 to 7%, sometimes up to 8%. So you are probably not spending enough on marketing. And the thing is, when you do spend on marketing, a lot of financial firms spend it on in-person events, which makes sense. It's very like schmoozy. We love seeing people in person. It's easier to close a deal in person. But right now the world is moving online and you kind of have to figure that out. And the good news is that digital advertising tends to be cheaper. And yes, Matt, I can find that and send that to you. If you Google Small Business Administration marketing, it'll probably come up for you. Depending on the year, I've seen the 6, 7, or 8% numbers. But I'll send it to you if you want. So anyway, the lack of in-person events in 2021 means you can save money on those in-person events and use that money on digital, which, woo, that's great for us. So let's talk about what digital marketing is, and then we can dive into how you can maybe use it. So this is a really rough overview of types of digital marketing. A lot of us know about SEO, and there's organic SEO or search engine optimization, also my initials. But search engine optimization, you can do it organically by just making sure that you have the right keywords on your site, that you're using the right phrases. But you can also pay so that your site is associated with those keywords. I'm sure anytime you've Googled something, you've seen those like paid sites pop up. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. Some is just straight paying for those associations. And then there's also pay per click, which is you only pay when someone clicks on the ad. That can be done via search engines, but also via other third-party websites. There's also paid social. There's multiple types of paid social. Christina hit on it a little bit, I think, but you can promote existing content. So just have a promoted ad or a promoted piece of content, or you can pay to run an ad that targets specific people. There's remarketing, which I'm sure we have all experienced, even if we didn't know what it was, where you looked at one pair of shoes and you have seen ads for that pair of shoes for the next 17 years. There's affiliate marketing, where you work with different partners to promote your content, and if someone bites, then you give them a cut. And then there's video ads, so the things that run at the front of YouTube ads, etc. Those can get expensive, so you really want to know that your clients like video, which is why with all of this, it really all goes back to audience, because the more you know your audience, the more you can target them specifically and be really efficient with the money that you spend. So I want to bring in Brian at Top Ranked Advisor, because what his firm does is work specifically with financial advisors on tackling these types of issues, whether it's paid marketing or organic search. And so he is super great at kind of how you experiment with these different types and what works and what doesn't work. So I'm going to invite him to take over from here. He's actually down in Chile in South America, so he'll speak in English, but he's promised to help me with my Spanish going forward. So I will kick it over to him.
Thank you, Shauna. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, and it's good that we had a couple of drinks before, because this can get a little bit heady. So there's a lot to touch on here, so I want to just focus on a couple of tips in regards to paid ads. And first, I want to acknowledge a couple of things that Shauna said. I took some notes here because when we work with clients, we always prefer, before we get into doing paid campaigns, we really want to make sure that you have all the core areas taken care of first. So like Shauna said, you really want to make sure that your site is working really well on cell phones, that you're tracking with Google Analytics and Search Console, that your site loads quickly using a site you can check with something like GTmetrix or Google Page Speed Insights. And you really want to make sure that your core, your base, your website is strong and ready to go. And then you can start dipping your toes into paid ads. When you know you're tracking it really well, you're using Facebook Pixel to track your Facebook ads, and you're checking your Google Analytics, you have goal conversion tracking going, and then you can start looking at paid ads. Now, which one? There's so many different ways that you can do paid ads, right? Everything from paying Yelp or other sites like that, Wiser Advisor, and all these other listing sites that could or could not, in my experience, have really mixed results generally not great with those. You have a lot less control of who's your audience and so on. Or you can just use a straight up Google ad where you'll see, you know, financial advisor, Chicago, which can get incredibly expensive. Maybe not quite 500, like we're being a little facetious in the slide, but it can get quite expensive. And if you don't know what's going on with that traffic, they come into your website and your site takes forever to load, you're just going to be burning your money doing that. So if you're going to be paying for these high intent ads like financial advisor in your city, and willing to pay, you know, $25 or more per click, keep in mind that it's generally, you know, getting a 5% conversion rate is very good. You can estimate, you know, would I be willing to pay at a 1% conversion rate? You know, that can get quite expensive. So you want to calculate it first, make sure that, figure out what budget you have, and then say, how can I make this budget go farther and reach my target audience? So say, you know, if you work with business owners or particularly people that you can, with a certain job title or in a certain company, then LinkedIn could be a great option for you. And you can go in and find those exact people and reach them. Obviously, a lot of people start with Google because that's where people are searching for your service. And when you're on social ads, you're generally interrupting them. So with social, you want to be solving a problem with some unique piece of content that you're offering that's really going to solve their problem. And with Google Ads, you're kind of grabbing them while they're searching. But you can end up spending a lot without using remarketing. So for Google Ads, if you're going to be spending that, and even any ads, you want to have remarketing code on your page because it's a lot cheaper to get them that second or third time when they're out on the internet than that first one. So your initial investment is paid off a bit in the fact that remarketing clicks can actually be a lot cheaper. So when you
so you can do like your initial marketing and then build remarketing in, so you're doing like them both at the same time.
Exactly. You want to have everything covered on the base level. You're tracking the results with analytics, and you're grabbing them with the remarketing code. So when it comes to the site, they're getting latched on with your cookie, so that you can then use other ads to get them cheaper. Even on social, you can find them on other places around the web when they're at other sites. That follows them along. Some things, basic tips. Start with a low budget. Tiptoe into it. Test something out. Try a really good piece of content. You have a game winner here of content that focuses on your niche that really solves people's questions. That's a nice piece that you want to maybe boost on social. Even if your site isn't quite ready yet, you're not really confident, you want to do a redesign, there's things that you can do on social to tiptoe into it. You can boost your social accounts, try to get a big following there by using ads to create that channel and focus more on pages. But your landing page is going to be really important in paid ads. So you want to do A/B testing. It's all about testing. We found that often your first inclination of an ad actually does much worse than after a few rounds of A/B testing, and something that you didn't expect.
Well, wait, Brian, what A/B testing is for all of us who aren't super familiar with it, where you have an A headline and a B headline, and you send them both out into the universe, and then all the algorithms calculate and they figure out which one is better, and it's often not the one that you think.
Yes, and you may expect like this title is going to be a winner. This is gonna get it done, and something completely different actually does a lot better. So it's all about testing and tracking, even on your own page, not just with the ads, but on your own page, structuring how you want to structure the content, what order, what headline, what picture. Those are all going to actually have big effects on your results.
I'm curious how important it is to differentiate between sort of the tactical people, the people are ready to buy, and the people who are window shopping when you're looking at ads, because it seems like there's a sort of different way of targeting each one.
Absolutely, and it's very important, your point earlier, that it's not all about getting the appointment. There are a lot of people who are just window shopping, which is why as well, when the high amount, the low conversion rate that I was talking about, when you're paying, Google ad, $25 per click. Keep in mind, when you're searching things, how many tabs do you open up with different pages? You open a whole lot. So imagine, just because they opened your page doesn't mean that they're gonna go with you. So they're not maybe won't set up that appointment. So you need to have the secondary conversion, the softer conversion on your page as well. If this person doesn't want to set up an appointment, how can I add value through a piece of content, through a risk quiz, through something, some other way? One other good thing to do is keep in mind when you're publishing. If you don't want to just pay ads and have it run, it's probably better to have it run during hours where you can reply right away. Maybe you can set up the chat function on your website, so you're paying for these people to get there, and then you can chat to them to say, "Hi, how's it going?" Not a hard sell, but just to know that, hey, if you have any questions, I'm here, so that they don't leave right away, that they can check out your site and your chat pops up 30 seconds later, letting them know that you're there to answer any questions that they have.
So you see, like, it all comes full circle, and I didn't even tell him to say that. And I will tell you guys, Brian is so smart. I already know about a lot of this stuff, and I'll probably still hire his firm to do ads for me, because it's just, there's so many in the weeds things that Brian can make very, very simple. So his information will also be in a flyer that I'll send out at the end of this, and to anyone who signed up for email. Social content, SEO, like non-paid SEO as well, optimizing your site for that, which is amazing because there's no course you can take on that. It's really hard-won knowledge. So being able to connect you with him is one of the big wins that I have on this webinar. So while I will turn him off to quickly take questions and send out prizes, you will be able to get in touch with him at the end of all of this. So I do want to wrap this all up by just kind of highlighting how everything tied back together. So paid ads, like Brian was saying, they can get you analytics. You can find out more about what people like, what they don't like, by how they're interacting with your ads, who's clicking on them. You find out more about your audience, what your audience likes and doesn't like. It can make you a better advisor by learning more about your clients. And you also find out what calls to actions work. Maybe read more or learn more gets a heck of a lot more clicks than set up an appointment. And those are all things that you can keep in mind. So there was a reason we spent more time on that first section, audience analytics and action, because that's kind of at the core of all of this. And I know we're running over, but I didn't leave as much time for this as I wanted to, but I did want to give out prizes. So for 4 people, I will send out cocktail making kits for the 2 cocktails that we didn't send the recipes out for beforehand. So I have everyone's name in this little goblet. I'm gonna go ahead and say Karen gets the tequila making kit because she told us how to say Cointreau. So that's one. The second tequila making kit is gonna go to Gary. Is Gary on? Gary, shoot me a chat if you're on. And if you are, you will get this. Woo, Gary, you get the next tequila or the margarita making kit. All right, now on to the Gordon Gekko. That kit will go to Gary. I'll message you so you can send me, and Karen, I'll message you so you can tell me where to send all this to. Mona, are you still on? I saw you earlier, I think. Woo! Okay, we will send you a kit for with all the ingredients for the Gordon Gekko. And then, do you want to pull the last one, Caitlin?
Oh, honored. Thank you. Oh, man. Here we go. Graham, are you on? Any Graham out there?
Oh, come on, we're doing so, woo! Oh man, that's so good. All right, Graham, you get the Gordon Gekko. I will shoot you guys all messages. I don't have, I mean, we can stay and take questions if you guys want, or we can wrap this up. Do you wanna shoot me a note if you have a pressing question, or I'm gonna send this out right now. You guys can let me know, like I said, if you want me to stay on or the team to stay on for questions. Here is, it should be, here's our handout that has all of the cocktail recipes as well as everyone's contact information who spoke here. And if you signed up for emails, I have a really exciting new email tool for marketing that's coming out that will allow you to super customize emails for your client base. So if you signed up for emails, you'll get that. I wanted to spend some time where Brian, Jamie, and Christina could just go into a little more detail about what they do, but we're running over. So I'll click back to the chat. Does anyone have any questions that you want to get answered immediately. Otherwise, I strongly recommend that everyone head over to the Hedge Fund Association's holiday party, now that you've all gotten a little bit of a pregame on. If you go to my website, my information is on that sheet as well, but I will always do a free 30-minute consult with anyone who wants to chat with me. I'm sure if you reach out to the people who spoke here, they will point you in the right direction. They're really helpful. That's why they're here. And I think that wraps us up. That was my clever pun on BYOB, bring your own business. These are all the people who spoke here, and they're also in the handout. And I will wrap that up. Thank you guys so much for coming. This was my first time doing one of these webinars for this business and not for someone else. And I'm so glad that you guys were here. So I will talk to y'all soon, probably on Twitter. And thank you for coming. Bye, everyone.